How do you watch Melee? It sounds like a silly question. It's just two video game mascots beating the ever-loving crap out of each other after all. But underneath the cartoony exterior is one of the deepest and most complex fighting games ever created. So today, I want to talk about how to watch Melee in greater depth. I'll give you some tips and tricks to help take this insane mess of mechanics and techniques and turn it into something you can understand, even if you haven't spent the last quarter century obsessed with the game like I have. Thank you to G Fuel, who has paid to be mentioned in today's video. It's Glitch Month over at G Fuel. From November 24th to December 2nd, you can take advantage of their BOGO sale with discounts on all sorts of new flavors, like their new Sour Cranberry Grapefruit and Pink Protocol, all with the new and improved Formula 2.0. You guys know this already, but G Fuel's a long-term partner of mine, and I really like the taste of this new formulation a lot. Also, I am gonna have surgery soon, or had it already if I'm recording this, I don't know. But I don't wanna be consuming a ton of caffeine because of that, so I'm once again advocating for the Hydration plus Focus bundle as a tasty, non-caffeinated option. The bundle even has this variety pack, which is keeping things interesting while I recover and make Nala edit these videos for me. G Fuel's usually running a sale, but even if you missed this one, you can use my discount code WALT at checkout or go to gfuel.com/WALT and you'll get 20% off your order. Full transparency, any purchase you make with my link will give me a small commission, and that also helps me stay partnered with them, so thanks. Thanks again to G Fuel for supporting me and the channel, and I hope you enjoyed today's video.
Numbers.
There are three numbers always displayed on the screen during a game of Melee: stock count, percents, and time. This is more than just Melee's scoreboard. The situation presented by these numbers, or the game state, determines so much about which strategies each player wants to employ. The stock count is the most important of these numbers. They're your lives. If you run out of lives, you lose. If the time expires, the player with more stocks remaining wins, so the pressure to initiate is always on the player with fewer stocks. This allows players with the stock lead to play more defensive, to take fewer risks while goading their opponent into giving them an opening they can use to extend their lead even further, if not win the game outright. The timer serves as a way to put pressure on players facing a stock deficit. As bad as it feels to lose a stock early into the game, there is much less pressure on a player down a stock with 7 minutes remaining than there is a player down a stock with 1 minute remaining. Broadly speaking, the lower the time remaining, the greater the incentive for the losing player to force interactions. While those interactions are the only thing with the potential to get them back into the game, the fact that their hand is forced means the player with the lead will often be ready to counter them. And lastly, the percents. Smash's damage meter is what makes it most unique among fighting games. Whereas most traditional fighters have a target amount of damage that leads to a win, Smash games are purely about hitting the opponent off the screen. A bigger number is better for a player on offense most of the time, as you'll hit your opponent farther, but not always. Watch Melee for long enough and you're bound to hear the term Marthritis. A quirk of Smash's focus on ring outs over outright damage is that some characters are actually scarier when their opponents are at lower percents. Marth, for example, can be one of the most explosive characters in the game thanks to his ability to link hits together, ending in an early kill off of a tipper finisher.
Yep, he doesn't care.
Yeah, look at that. Go back into the crowd, buddy.
A single grab at lower mid percents has the chance to lead to death in the hands of a skilled Marth. But on the contrary, an opponent that manages to dodge Marth's potent early kill power can manage to survive for a long time. Because Marth relies on a mechanic that enhances damage and knockback when he hits with the tip of his sword, without well-spaced hits, Marth struggles to take kills with stray hits in a way that many other characters just don't. You can swap them with your forward air or up air or anything like that for as long as you want, but it's not going to kill until very late. So while the bigger number is usually better, it's not always the case. Each character and each matchup have their own set of important numbers too. Some particularly potent combos only work at certain percent ranges, so racking up too much damage on the opponent will mean that they'll fly too far after getting hit for the combo to even work. As such, you'll sometimes see players shift their approach when their opponents reach these damage ranges. Instead of aggressively pursuing more damage, they'll play for the one specific hit that they know can combo into death. One of the most common examples of this takes place in the Fox-Jigglypuff matchup. Fox's insanely strong up air combined with Jigglypuff's low weight makes it an incredibly potent killing tool, but there's a window of percent where Fox can combo his up throw into an up air to get a really early kill. So once Jigglypuff nears the upper bound of that range where the combo will work, a Fox player who has spent his whole stock firing lasers from across the screen is likely to put the gun away and start looking for a grab instead. Top players will have these ranges memorized. You can think of their options like switches that turn on and off depending on the game state. Combo windows aren't the only numbers that players have to keep in mind though. There's also crouch canceling, a defensive mechanic that allows defensive players to gain an advantage by holding down while taking a hit on the ground. Crouch canceling, like these combo linking options, only really work when the defensive player is at a low enough percent. At higher damage, they'll instead be knocked down, which the offensive player can take advantage of. Now, by no means do you need to memorize these numbers to be a smart Melee viewer, but knowing these concepts even exist can be key to understanding why players are making certain decisions, and can explain why they choose the options they do in various scenarios.
Stage position.
Control center stage, and you usually control the match. This is true in pretty much every fighting game, but in Smash, where the focus is on ring outs over sheer damage, it's even more important to keep those feet planted as close to center stage as possible. Occupying the middle ground allows a player to both advance if their opponent is giving up space, or to retreat if an opponent is trying to enter space. It keeps as many response options open as possible at all times. As a player is back towards a ledge, their options become limited. Imagine a fox bearing down on you, threatening options like dash attack or an approaching short hop aerial like neutral air. Options like back roll, dash back, or wave dash back can all work not only to avoid the hit, but with good timing and spacing, can even allow the defending player to respond with a hit of their own. When they have the ledge to their back though, the defensive player's options become very limited. They basically have to rely on their shield or try to force their way back to center stage. These options aren't just easier for the offensive player to deal with than retreating options. When the defensive player is stuck in the corner, the offensive player doesn't even have to consider retreats and can focus on countering aggression or shield. So this all makes it sound like the ledge would be unquestionably the worst place you could be other than actually off the stage. However, Melee's ledge has unique properties that can actually make it an advantageous location, despite the fact that occupying the ledge necessarily means giving up center stage. Grabbing the ledge in Melee grants a brief period of invincibility. This was designed to give players who are recovering from being hit off stage some level of protection from players simply standing near the ledge and swatting them as they grab it. But this invincibility is granted no matter where the player who grabbed the ledge is grabbing it from, which means you actually do have one extra option when you're backed into a corner. Retreat to the ledge and use its invincibility to your advantage. The trickiest part about Melee's ledge, and what separates it the most from other Smash titles, is that this invincibility doesn't just apply to when you're grabbing the ledge. Grabbing the ledge grants intangibility for the duration of the ledge grab animation plus 30 frames, half a second, as Melee runs at 60 frames per second. So by pressing down or back to drop off the ledge, players can retain that invincibility while doing another option. This invincibility gives cornered players a way to aggressively return to the stage with some level of protection. It also grants a way to hold this position rather safely, as most characters have a way to continually re-grab the ledge while holding onto this invincibility. For this reason, more of Melee takes place around the ledge than you would probably expect given the strength of the center stage position. The strength of invincible options off of ledge like double jump aerials and wave landing onto stage is why Melee has had to enact a ledge grab limit. Because this position is so strong, particularly for certain characters like Jigglypuff, who can float above the ledge where other characters can't reach, then return to the ledge for its sweet, sweet invincibility, it would be possible to use this position to stall the timer pretty much infinitely. As a result, if players grab the ledge more than a certain number of times, this varies depending on the tournament rule set, but it's usually 60, and the game goes to time, they automatically lose the game, assuming their opponent has not also surpassed the ledge grab limit. The ledge grab limit isn't the only reason why the entire game isn't played around the ledge, though. The execution required to take advantage of the ledge's invincibility is often difficult, and missing something like a wave land onto stage can leave the player a sitting duck for their opponent, or just kill them outright in the case of an offstage air dodge. So what results from this is a fascinating balance that Melee players have to work around. The ledge and its intangibility offers some incredibly powerful tools for players to use, but being at the ledge intrinsically means you're giving up center stage, and the many movement options that holding center stage opens up. This ultimately means getting cornered is far from a death sentence, but cornered players usually have to work pretty hard to take advantage of the benefits offered by the ledge. When trying to understand why Melee players are making decisions, the benefits provided by the ledge, center stage, or both are always worth thinking about. So far, we've only been talking about the horizontal dimension of stage positioning. Platform fighters, by their very nature, uniquely require us to talk about the vertical dimension too. The existence of a platform can completely recontextualize the way the game is played. For attacking players, the presence of a platform may allow for a combo to continue where it otherwise couldn't. There are some characters who are able to extend combos for multiple hits thanks to a platform being there. For defending players, it can give them a place to land to break up an otherwise guaranteed combo, or it can give them space on the stage to hide from aggressive landing aerial attacks. Some matchups can shift considerably depending on the presence of a platform. There are a bunch of characters with chain grabs, combos that repeatedly chain one grab into another, and in most of these cases the throw in question is an up throw. Throw them upwards, regrab them on the way down, rinse and repeat. A platform can break up the chain grab by giving the grabbed player somewhere to land, forcing the grabber to make another move if they want to remain on offense. Generally speaking, the player on lower ground has the advantage. Every character has moves available to them that are specifically designed to swat opponents out of the air, and because platforms are much smaller in real estate than the stage floor, the player on the platform has restricted horizontal movement compared to the player on the ground.
Come on!
That's not to say players on platforms don't have options to help them out though. The biggest is a technique called shield dropping, which allows players to drop through a platform while their shields are up. This prevents grounded players from constantly harassing players above them by swatting at their shields. A well-timed shield drop can allow the player on the platform to not only block the attack from below, but even punish the opponent for attempting to attack in the first place. Look at this one. This was a shield drop that really was literally 1/60th of a second, and it won Mango $40,000, which is crazy.
That's it!
Mango winning his first ever Smash Summit.
What? And the biggest prize pool in Smash
biggest
history.
prize pool in Smash history.
I cannot believe it, Scar.
When watching Melee though, it's always worth thinking about which characters and players benefit the most from the presence or absence of platforms, especially in best of 5 sets that wind up featuring more stages during gameplay. When players are making their decisions about where to go for the next game, these are some of the factors going through their heads.
Characters.
Throughout this video, I've made references to the ways that characters can influence the concepts at hand. The important numbers in each matchup are dependent on the properties of each character. The specifics of which stage positions are more valuable depend heavily on each character's movement, recovery, and attacks. The ideas mentioned so far apply in pretty much every matchup, but their importance can vary heavily depending on which set of characters is on the screen. Another important concept downstream of stage control is spacing. When you watch players move in Melee, it can be a little unclear why they're making certain choices, or why they're just kind of dancing around like that. Typically, players are trying to play right on the edges of their opponent's effective ranges. By playing around a range that your opponent can hit, but just barely, you can bait them into swinging while keeping yourself in position to avoid the attack. To do this requires having a strong understanding of exactly where your opponent is able to reach and what they can do in that spot. And this is literally bubble theory. Let's go H-box. Once again, let's consider Marth, whose sword gives him an attack range that most characters who swing with their actual limbs can't match. Thus, the typical goal of Marth is to maintain a spacing between himself and his opponent such that he's far enough away that they can't reach him. But he doesn't want to get too far away, which would allow characters to pelt him with projectiles and rack up damage until he gets back into a range where his sword is actually a threat. I don't really have time in this video to go over the way each and every character in Melee changes the way you have to watch them. That's more like watching Melee 301, and we're still in watching Melee 101 here. The important thing to keep in mind as somebody who is just trying to be a little bit more conscious while watching Melee is that each character tends to have a way to bend or break the rules we've talked about throughout this video. Jigglypuff's access to 5 jumps and insanely large aerial attacks makes the ledge a position of strength for her in a way that it doesn't for most characters. Characters like Donkey Kong's ability to extend combos off of simply a grab means the percents at which he can take a stock become much lower on stages where he can utilize platforms. Captain Falcon's insane speed gives him a burst range that changes the way most characters have to position themselves compared to slower characters, and so on and so forth. If you're interested in seeing videos going into more depth into the way certain characters change the way you watch Melee, drop a comment below. And also subscribe to the channel because that'll make me really happy and stuff, so woo! Melee would not have survived as a competitive game for over 2 decades if it could be fully described in a 15-minute video like this. But you don't need to have a detailed understanding of every little thing happening on the screen to become a smarter Melee fan. With these concepts as a baseline, you can start to understand the basic ideas underlying decision-making in Melee, and hopefully, with more experience, you can start to pick out the specifics and learn to see the game in a richer way. To be completely honest though, part of the beauty of Melee is that you don't need to do any of this stuff to have a great time watching watching it. If all you want to do is watch Fox and his buddies slug it out, more power to you. But if you've been looking to get more out of the experience, hopefully the concepts here help you make a bit more sense out of this absurdly deep and beautiful game. Thanks for watching. Big thanks to my top supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships. You can also get your name in the credits at the $5 level, which all goes right back into producing more videos on this channel. So thanks to Avishua Stein, Bobby Wasabi, Brent Mukai, Dark Genix, Eric is Cool, Gustavo Cantu Fernandez, Henry Huang, Ian, James Fabman, Jazz the Pirate, Justin Duncan Mills, Kyle Carlin, Marshall Bradley, and Sam Wright.